Imagine this. You're on an airplane, all by yourself. The cabin is dark, silent. The doors are locked. There's no crew, no passengers, and no way out. For one young man, this wasn't a nightmare. It was his reality. This is the chilling true story of how a routine workday at an airport turned into a terrifying fight for survival, and how a simple, single mistake became a death sentence. The day started like any other for the ground crew at the airport. It was a busy, bustling environment, filled with the sounds of jets taking off and landing, and the chatter of thousands of travelers. Among the ground staff was a young man. Let's call him Alex, who was part of the cleaning and maintenance team. His job was to prepare the aircraft for its next flight, making sure the cabin was pristine and ready for passengers. He was known for being diligent, hardworking, and always focused on the task at hand. On this particular evening, he was assigned to a commercial airliner that had just completed its last flight of the day and was scheduled to be parked overnight. The plane was empty, a silent giant resting on the tarmac after a long day of soaring through the skies. Alex and his team boarded, armed with cleaning supplies, ready to get the job done. The atmosphere was routine. Just another cabin to clean, another plane to prep. They moved through the aisles, wiping down tray tables, collecting trash, and vacuuming the floors. It was a familiar rhythm, a dance they performed every day. Alex, wanting to be thorough, moved towards the rear of the aircraft, into the aft cargo hold, to ensure everything was in order there as well. This is where the story takes a fateful turn. Unbeknownst to his colleagues who were finishing up in the main cabin, Alex was still working in the belly of the plane. The team, believing their work was complete and the aircraft was empty, followed standard procedure. They gathered their equipment, walked down the jet bridge, and sealed the main cabin door. With a heavy, definitive clank, the locks engaged. The ground crew dispersed, their shift over, ready to head home. The plane was now secured, silent, and supposedly empty, but it wasn't. Down below, in the pitch-black darkness of the cargo hold, Alex was still inside. He likely didn't even hear the door lock. He was completely alone, trapped inside a massive metal tube, parked in a remote corner of the airfield. At first, Alex probably didn't even realize his predicament. He might have finished his checks, ready to head out, only to find the access hatches sealed. Confusion would have been his first emotion. He'd call out, expecting a response from his team, but the only answer would be the echoing silence of the empty fuselage. As minutes turned into an hour, confusion would morph into annoying unease, then into full-blown panic. He was trapped. He would have started banging on the walls, on the doors, his shouts for help swallowed by the soundproofed hull of the aircraft. On the outside, the airport was winding down. The once bustling tarmac grew quiet, with only the distant hum of machinery and the blinking lights of the runway. No one could hear him. No one even knew he was there. His frantic calls for help were just whispers lost in the vast, empty space. He was a ghost in a machine, invisible to the world outside. As the night deepened, another enemy emerged. The cold. The aircraft, now powered down, was no longer temperature controlled. The metal shell began to cool rapidly in the night air. Inside the cargo hold, temperatures plummeted. Alex was dressed in his work uniform, not prepared for a night spent in a freezing metal box. His breath would have turned to mist in front of him. He would have tried to keep warm, pacing in the confined space, rubbing his arms, his body shivering uncontrollably. The physical exhaustion from his efforts to escape, combined with the biting cold, began to take a severe toll. Hope would have started to fade with his body heat. The vast, empty plane that was his workplace just hours before had become his prison, and the silence, every passing hour made survival less and less likely. He was fighting a losing battle against time, cold, and utter isolation. The silence wasn't just an absence of sound. It was an active, oppressive force, magnifying his fear and desperation. The sun rose the next morning, casting its first light on the silent airport. A new ground crew arrived for their morning shift, their first task to prepare the same plane for its first flight of the day. They approached the aircraft, completely unaware of the tragedy that had unfolded overnight. One of the crew members unsealed the main cabin door. As the heavy door swung open, they were met with a chilling sight. They found Alex. He was unresponsive, The crew immediately radioed for emergency services. Paramedics rushed to the scene, but it was too late. The young man who had walked into the plane full of life the day before had succumbed to the freezing temperatures. The silence had claimed its victim. The discovery sent shockwaves through the entire airport community. How could this have happened? It was a scenario so unbelievable, so horrific, that no one could have imagined it. The bustling tarmac came to a standstill as emergency vehicles surrounded the plane. An immediate and thorough investigation was launched. The scene was secured with police tape, and investigators from aviation authorities and law enforcement began the painstaking process of piecing together what went wrong. They interviewed Alex's colleagues, reviewed security footage, and examined every aspect of the airline's end-of-a procedure. The story that emerged was one of a catastrophic, yet tragically simple, human error. A breakdown in communication, a failure to follow protocol. There was supposed to be a final head count, a definitive check to ensure the aircraft was clear before being sealed. But on that night, for some reason, that crucial step was missed. It was a single oversight, a moment of distraction in a routine task. But it had the most devastating consequences imaginable. The investigation highlighted the critical importance of every single step in aviation safety protocols, revealing how even the most mundane procedures are in place to prevent such unthinkable events. In the aftermath, the empty airplane stood as a silent monument to the tragedy. The cabin, once a scene of frantic cleaning and later a desperate struggle for survival, was now quiet again. But this silence was different. It was heavy, filled with the weight of what had happened. It served as a stark, chilling reminder that safety in aviation isn't just about flying. It's about every single action taken on the ground. A person's life depended on a checklist, on a final look, on someone simply doing their job correctly. This incident led to sweeping changes in ground crew procedures across the industry. New, more stringent protocols were implemented to ensure that an aircraft is verifiably empty before being locked. The tragedy of one young man's death served as a brutal lesson, forcing a re-evaluation of safety measures to prevent such a thing from ever happening again. This true story is a powerful and heartbreaking illustration of how quickly things can go wrong. A young worker, just doing his job, was forgotten. Trapped by a simple mistake, he was left to face an impossible situation alone. It reminds us that behind the complex machinery and grand scale of air travel, there are human beings, and human error can have fatal consequences. The silence inside that airplane was more than just the absence of noise. It was the absence of help, the absence of hope. It was a silence that ultimately and tragically killed. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as impactful as we did, please consider subscribing for more true stories that need to be told. Stay safe.